So today begins the work on the empty motoring Ford Mustang GT. As you can see here, we're here at Steve's house. And we have a bunch of parts to install. Let me go over here. I have a lot of various parts. This is the Supercharger Kit. Ford Performance Supercharger. This is their carb legal 750 horsepower Supercharger Kit, bolt-on Supercharger Kit. We're going to be installing that later today / tomorrow. We have a bunch of other accessories. We have an air oil separator. Ford was nice enough to send us some lug nuts. Got a shift knob. And this is the hood strut kit that we're going to install. Here we have the Ford Performance front splitter setup. The lip is inside, and we also have a new front grille, and the lowering springs are right over there. But yeah, we're about to get started and get going on this. Steve's setting up the quick jack setup for the car. We're gonna work on the lowering springs. So it seems pretty straightforward. Obviously the front's got your top 3 nuts, bottom, we'll see when we get the wheel off. But yeah, the Mustang has the new independent rear suspension setup, so go ahead and see what it looks like underneath everything. Alright, here is the Ford Performance Mustang lowering springs. This is the part number that I'm using. Opening the box here, very nicely packaged. A lot of aftermarket lowering springs brands that I sell, it's not packaged this nice. Steve's still setting up the quick jack setup. Getting this car up. Okay, cool. Those coming off. Check in with Supervisor Chewy. Everything all right there, Chewy? Yeah, we're good? Okay. Let's take a look at the front suspension. This Mustang came with the Performance Package brakes. So let's take a look. Yeah, it looks almost identical. Ooh, spider webs. Looks pretty much identical to design wise to the previous Mustang, so real easy to do. Just 3 bolts on top. You have your sway bar link, and then you have your top and bottom, and obviously you have to unclip the ABS line and brake line. The brake line's separate, so we're good there. Steve's already working on the rear really quick. This is the newer generation Ford rear suspension. Doesn't look particularly too difficult to do. Actually, yeah, it looks pretty straightforward. Alright. We're gonna go ahead and get started. All right, so we finished the spring install on the rear. We're about to get started on the front. Obviously the car's still in the air, so we'll see how it sits right after. The rear install actually was pretty straightforward. You gotta unbolt the
rear subframe.
Instead of all the suspension joints, you just do the subframe and you push down on it and the spring comes out. It's a little bit of a different design than other cars we worked on. We do a lot of Japanese and European. A little bit of a different design once you kind of look at it and like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. But yeah, we're gonna get started on the fronts and here we go. It's getting a little late. The two lower nuts bolts on the front struts on both sides are pretty tight, and our friend Adian isn't here today. He has this really long breaker bar that's perfect for this situation, because even with Steve's very powerful Milwaukee impact, it can't break these bolts loose, so we have to do it by hand, but we need the right tools. We don't have that breaker bar. So what we're gonna do is finish the front struts tomorrow, but we're gonna go ahead and start disassembling the front bumper. So for the supercharger install, get all that off, because we do have the front grille, we do have the front splitter, everything that needs to come off this bumper to get swapped out anyway. So we're gonna do all that at the same time for the sake of efficiency, and maybe install some of the small accessories. What do you think about installing the hood struts first, so we don't have to
that
make the most sense?
Yep.
All right.
First, get stuff out of the way, pull the bumper off.
Cool.
And then start installing whatever you can.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and get started in doing that. So this is maybe about 10-15 minutes later. Bumper's obviously off. We still have the front wheels off, because taking apart half the fender liner with the wheel off, obviously, to get the clips out is a lot easier. So as you can see, the car's pretty much a brand new car. It's just a little dusty from driving around. Pretty chewy. So for the new hood strut install, I believe on the passenger side there's a little bit of cutting because of the shroud piece. The driver's side, I believe it should be pretty straightforward. If there's any trimming or cutting, it's very minor. What do the instructions say, Steve? Pretty straightforward. I'm sure there's like a spot that you just use, because there's nothing in the way. But anyways, so there's the template. Can't lose that. It's just flew. Yeah, making good progress. We're gonna get the hood struts finished up for today, because we're starting to run out of daylight, and wrap it up. And then tomorrow we start on the supercharger. We work on supercharger install, finish the front struts, and then also install all the goodies that are going on the front bumper. So you get to see that tomorrow. Yeah, so far making pretty decent progress with what time we had. We had a couple things going on today.